Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. A ton of you guys have been requesting and updated how I edit, and I believe the last one I did was like a year ago, so that is exactly what today's video is. I did split this video into different sections, so if you're interested in learning about something specific, you can reference the timestamps, and to find those, you can run your cursor along the timeline of the video, or you can just check the description and they will all be listed there. Please remember, I am not a professional and I taught myself all of these editing techniques, so this is what works for me, but obviously there may be certain tips and tricks that you can also learn from more professionals. This tutorial does not go in depth on how to use Final Cut Pro. This video is more showing how I use Final Cut Pro. So if you want more of a tutorial that shows you how to use it and like all of that kind of stuff, there are so many other videos you can search for on YouTube that will help you guys out with that. But without further ado, let's get started with the video. Alright, so before I edit, I obviously have to film the video. So here's the equipment that I use. For cameras, I have two cameras. The first one is the Canon EOS M50, which is what I'm using right now. This camera is what I use the majority of the time, but if I'm like traveling or going out in a lot of places, then I'll use the Canon G7X Mark II, which like I said, I use for more like vlogging situations. For my Canon EOS M50, I do have two attachments. I currently have an external microphone and then a wide angle lens. I believe my microphone is the Rode Video Micro one. It works amazing. It has a wind muffler, so wind doesn't really affect the sound, and I think it helps a lot with audio. And then a few months ago, I recently purchased this new lens for the camera. I don't know like the names of lenses, but I'm just gonna read what it says on the lens. It is the Canon Zoom Lens EF-M 11 to 22 millimeter. I don't know how well that will help you guys out, but I am gonna link all of the equipment that I use in the description, so go ahead and check that out if you're interested. As you already know, the software that I use to edit is Final Cut Pro. When I first started YouTube, I actually used iMovie, and that is a great software to start with because it's free, it's on most Apple products, and it's pretty easy to learn how to use. But eventually I wanted to step up my editing, and Final Cut Pro does such a good job with that, so I would totally recommend it. It is $300, but it's only a one-time payment for everything, so I personally think it's really worth it. And then to edit on, I have my MacBook Pro. This is the 14-inch 2021 MacBook Pro. I really like it. Please remember that when you're first starting out on YouTube, you don't need all of this fancy, expensive equipment. You can literally just film on your phone, edit on a free software, and you can definitely do well with that. That's how I started off with. I started by filming on my phone and editing on iMovie, so you definitely don't need to buy the expensive equipment right away, but I definitely would recommend investing in it later on if you really want to grow your channel and stuff. Alright, so the first step in my editing process is importing the footage. So once I film my video on one of my cameras, I take out the SD card from the camera, which is what holds all the footage, and I put the footage onto my laptop. My laptop does have an SD card slot, so it makes it super easy. I know some laptops don't, and that's where I would recommend buying some type of hub to plug in that has like USB, SD cards, micro SD. I used to have one for my old MacBook. It was super helpful, and you can find them all over Amazon. And if by any chance I have some footage on my phone that I used for the video, like pictures or extra clips, I will just go ahead and airdrop those onto my laptop. I find that airdropping is a little bit better than like texting or something like that, just because it keeps the quality nice. Once I have all those clips on my desktop, then I will go ahead and drag them into an organized folder. I definitely like to keep all my videos and stuff organized because it can be really easy to not be organized and then just mix up all your stuff together, especially when I pre-film a lot of videos and I have to keep them on my laptop to edit in the future. Keeping them in folders is like the best. So I just make a new folder for the name of the video that I'll be editing and put all of the footage into there. And then when I'm ready to get started with editing, I will open up Final Cut Pro, create a new library, and then within that library, I create the actual project. I name both of those the name of the video just so I stay organized. And then I just drag all the clips into the editing bar. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I like to call it. Alright guys, I moved over so that I can access my MacBook easier and show you guys how to do everything, because now we can get started with the editing process. The first step of the editing process is rough cutting, and rough cutting is basically where you cut down all of the footage that you have into the actual clips that you want in your finished video. For example, you'd be cutting out like weird silences, breaths, and just parts that you don't want. So I made this example library so that I can show you guys different editing strategies. This clip is from my Halara try-on haul, and I figured it was the easiest one to work with to show you guys how I do everything. So here's the whole clip on the editing bar, and the first thing I like to do is actually size it. So when you guys open up Final Cut Pro, it may not look like this. All you have to do is just go over here to this little icon, click on it, and you can resize the bar to however zoomed in and big you want it. I like the size of it to be the biggest possible because it's just easier for me to see. This zoom in option is kind of so that you can really zoom in on the different audio clips and cut right when you want it to cut, if that makes sense. So I like to just drag with 2 fingers on the trackpad to kind of size it to how I want. I like it at this length because I can can really cut down right when I want the audio to start. So like I said, this is rough cutting, and rough cutting is probably one of the more boring parts of editing, but to do that, all you have to do is find the spot where you want to cut the clip, click on it. There are many different ways for you to cut a clip, but personally, the way that I found the easiest and fastest is to go on your keyboard and click Command B. That makes it so much easier and faster to cut your clips. So I just go ahead, do that, and then delete the part that I don't want, and now the video starts where I actually start talking. So then I'll just go through and do this for the entire video. Once I finish the whole rough cutting process, then I move on to what I like to call the fun editing, which is basically adding all of the creative aspects to my video to make it more unique for me. This is my favorite part of editing. It's so much fun, and it really makes your videos unique. This part of the process can differ on whether I want to do text or zoom ins or whatever. I kind of just add them freely as I go, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to do it in a more organized way. So we're going to start off by adding text. As I'm going through the video, if I see a spot where I feel like text or some type of emoji is needed, then I go up to this little icon, which is for text, and I drag in the basic title option. As you guys can see, there are a ton of text options that you guys can kind of play around with and see what you like. Personally, I prefer the basic text option because you can just customize it to anything. There is a shortcut for putting this in, but I honestly can never remember it, so I just drag it in like this. Then I click this icon, which is like to edit your text, and then I just type in what I want it to say. We're just gonna have this one say hello. So now that it's done, you can see it's pretty basic. Usually to customize my text, I choose from my saved presets in all of these different fonts. Literally one day I went through all the fonts that are on Final Cut Pro and just selected ones that I personally like the best and made them presets so that it was easier for me to access them. So maybe for this time I want it to be this font, and you can see it changed it. Once I choose that, then I'll go and edit the size, color, position, all that kind of stuff. So to change the color, you want to scroll all the way down and then click face, show, and then you can choose from here. Obviously you can do any color you want to do. Sometimes I like to go for this kind of like light yellow-ish color, and you can see it change the color. Then to change the size, all you have to do is just scroll on this part. You can make it super small or super big, and then to move it around, all you have to do is hold and drag on the actual text, and you can place it wherever you want. So let's say I want it right here. If that's where I want it, then I go ahead and scroll on the actual clip and see where I want the text to start and end, because obviously I don't want it to be there for the whole video. Once I figure out how long I want it to be, I'll click Command B, which cuts the text, and then delete the rest. And that is how you insert text. If I wanted to insert emojis, I literally just do the same thing, but instead of typing a word, I'll just put an emoji. If you want to save certain fonts and like colors as a preset, let me show you guys how to do that. So I'm gonna bring a new text thing in here so that it kind of like resets. So let's say I'm scrolling down all of these different font options and I seem to like this one. Then you're gonna want to click it to make your text that font. Then you're gonna want to click this bar up here, and then you can choose from one of these options. I personally just choose this one because it saves the size and the color of the font, but if you just wanted to save the color, you choose this one. If you just wanted to save the size, you choose that one, but I usually just choose this. Once you click that, then you can name your preset. I personally just name mine the name of the font so that it's easier to remember and access. You can see the font name over here, so then I'll just type product because that's the name of the font. Click save, and then down here in your drop down bar, you can see it right here. Also, I did want to quickly mention, if you ever make a mistake while you're editing and accidentally delete something or something like that, to undo something, you just have to click Command Z on your keyboard and it'll undo whatever you just did. That is a very helpful trick that I taught myself because there are so many times where I accidentally delete a clip or something like that, and obviously if you don't know how to get it back, that can be very frustrating. So if you ever do something that you want to undo, just click Command Z and it'll bring it back. Some of you have probably seen me move text on and off screen, so if you want to know how to do that, go to the timestamp that says cropping and tracking. So as you guys have probably seen by watching my videos, my main transition is the one that looks like this, and to do that, all you have to do is find the spot in your clips where you want the transition to appear. So let's say I want it between these two, and when I insert a transition, I always add extra space between each clip just so that the transition doesn't go over me talking. So as you can see, I added a little bit of like blank space between the two. Then you go to this button, which is the transitions button. Click on that, and these are all the options you can choose from. There are so many good transitions here. My main one is called slide, so I just go to search, type in slide, and here it is. So then I'll just click and drag that into the spot where I want it. Once it's there, you guys can see it looks pretty big and moves pretty slowly. So then I just grab the end, click and drag it to shorten it, and now it's just quick and precise, which is what I like. I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's kind of this blank space between the transition and me talking, so I'll just go ahead and delete that extra space space just so that it's still a fast moving clip. And then I like to add a sound effect underneath it. I go into this tab, which is like the audio tab, click that, and then go to the sound effects section. Then I go ahead and search swish. There are two different types of swish ones. I normally go for swish 2. I click and drag that underneath and then usually adjust the volume a little bit quieter, and that is how I make my normal transition. And that's literally like the only transition I'll use. Sometimes I'll just put the computer mouse sound effect between two clips to kind of signal that I'm transitioning without actually inserting one. But like I said, if you go to the transition tab, there are so many options for you guys to look through and choose from. Alright, so now for the cropping / tracking category. This one I feel like was very helpful for me when I was learning how to edit, because cropping and tracking can really make your video more interesting to watch. I like to add cropping on clips where I want to put more emphasis on something, so it can look like this. To crop a clip, all you have to do is select the clip that you want to be cropped, and then go over here to the scale all option, and then you're just going to want to drag the little icon a little bit towards the right, or however much you want it to be cropped. And as you can see, it's more cropped than the clip after it. Sometimes I like to do the opposite and drag it to the left, and then there's a little black border around it. If you guys don't know what tracking is, it's basically when the screen moves or something on the screen moves. So it can either look like this or it can look like this. If you guys have been watching my videos, you guys know that I do both of these in a lot of my videos. So to do the zoom in tracking, you're going to select the clip that you want to zoom in a little bit, go down to this icon and click the drop down bar. Then you're going to want to choose transform. Once you're there, you're going to want to bring this little like cursor thing to the point where you want it to start zooming in. So I want it to start at the beginning of the clip, so I'll just leave it there. Once it's there, you're going to want to click this little like diamond icon up here. This is to create a keyframe, I think is what it's called, which is basically its starting point. So once you click that, you can see it has a little X and then all of these turn yellow. So then you're just going to click the right arrow on your keyboard and just keep clicking it until you're at the point in the clip where you want it to stop zooming in. So let's say I want it to stop right here. Then you go to the scale all option on the right, drag it as far to the right as you want it to zoom in, and then you're going to click done. Now you can rewatch it and you can see it slowly zoom in and stop. There is another way you can do zooming in on a clip, but with this way it just kind of keeps zooming in and doesn't stop until it's the end of the clip. So to do that, you go to the same drop down bar and click crop. Then from these three options, you're going to choose Ken Burns, and you can see it says start to end, which means it starts out full screen and it ends up with this little screen. You can adjust these boxes to make it super small or super big. Hit done, and then it'll just keep zooming to that point for the whole clip. Now I'm going to show you guys how to do tracking with things moving on the screen. So this could be text, images, anything like that. For this example, I'll just show you guys with text, just because once you know how to do it with text, you can do it with anything. So I'm going to go ahead to the text drop down bar and then drag in this basic title. Let's say I want it to say subscribe. I just type that in and then choose the font that I want from the drop down menu and then resize it. So let's say I just want this to kind of pop up from below and then go back down. So first, drag your text to where you want it to start coming up. So let's say I want it to start right here. Put your cursor at the beginning of the text clip. Make sure you selected your little text option. Go down to this drop down and choose transform. And then if you guys see this little circle in the middle, this just helps keep your text or whatever straight. You're going to click and hold this and just drag your text off the screen or wherever you want it to start. And then you're going to go up here and click the keyframe button. Again, this is to start it. So once you click that, then you're just going to want to click the right arrow on your keyboard until the point to where you want it to show up. So let's say I want it to show up here. Once I've done that, then you go ahead and click the same little circle thing and drag your text back up, or drag your text to where you want it to show up. And now you guys can watch it back and see that the text just floats onto the screen. And you can do the same thing to push text off of the screen and to do images and stuff. Alright, so adding overlays and effects is really easy, and I would definitely recommend adding them whenever you can. They just kind of spice up your video, if that makes sense. So the first step of adding an overlay is choosing what you want to add. Usually an overlay for me means like a PNG or image that I want to show up on the screen. So I'm just going to go into this folder and choose a PNG that I have saved in here. So let's say I want this picture of the Glossier sunscreen to pop up on the screen. I already have it screenshotted and saved to the desktop. So I just drag that onto the timeline, and as you can see, this is not where I want it to be. So I just select the clip, click this little icon, and then you can kind of resize it and adjust it for where you want it to be and the size that you want it to be. Once you have it where you want it, you click done, and that's all you have to do. You can use tracking to make it move on and off screen as well. And then to add an effect to your clip, you're going to want to go over to this little section. This button brings you to your effects. These effects are for video and audio. So usually you're going to want to go to the all for video section. This is just all of the effects for like visual usual. But if you do want to add an effect to your audio to make it sound muffled or
higher pitch, lower pitch,
anything like that, you can scroll down here and go to all under audio. Sometimes I'll use the muffled effect to make music sound a little better at the end. But this is where you can find all of your effects. To add an effect, all you have to do is choose the one that you want. Let's say I want this one, which I do use a lot on text. So once I choose this one, I'll click and drag it onto the clip that I want it, and then I can obviously adjust it to how much I want showing on the screen, and that's literally it. It's super simple. I get my music from two different sources. The main one being Thematic Music. It is an online website that has so many music options, and there is a free option for it, so you don't have to pay anything and you still get music. All you have to do is download it, and then when you put their music in your video, you just have to copy and paste a link into your description so that you don't get copyrighted. And then sometimes I get my music from the YouTube audio library. By getting music from there, it's copyright free and you don't have to pay for it. To add music to your videos, you're going to want to go to this button, which is the audio tab, and then go to music. This list is all of my downloaded music, so obviously these probably won't show up on yours unless you have the same. So I'll just scroll through all of these music options and listen to them and pick which one really fits with the clip, because sometimes there's just clips that only go with a certain vibe of music. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you start editing, you'll kind of understand what I'm saying. So let's say I like this music for this specific clip, which obviously I'm talking, but this is just an example. I'll just click and drag that underneath, and then here's your music. You can adjust volume levels to make it quieter or louder, and then you can cut it down to where you want it to start and end. And then for sound effects, it's the same thing. You just go to the sound effects bar, and then here are all the sound effects options that they offer. You can download some from the internet if you want, but just make sure they're copyright free because you don't want to be copyrighted. The two main sound effects that I like to use are Swish 2 and then also Computer Mouse, and that is pretty much all of the editing that I do. Obviously, I do much more of it when I'm actually editing a video, but the last step of my editing process is to add my channel add-ins. And since I've started YouTube, I've gone through many different channel themes, kind of. So if you guys have been watching me for a while, you've probably noticed different outros, different intros, and stuff like that. And every once in a while, I do like to change it up, but I do always like to have at least some type of outro. Sometimes I don't like intros because they just waste time, so I definitely like to always have an outro. And once I finish all of the editing in a certain video, that is when I go ahead and add those. So to add my outro, I scroll to the end of the entire video, and then I go to my YouTube folder and click add-ins. This is where all of my main add-ins are that don't go into specific videos, like they go into all of them. And here is my most recent outro. Obviously you guys can see some from older videos, but I'll just click and drag that into the end of the video, and then it'll show up right here. And then lastly, once I think I finished a video, I started at the beginning and just watch the entire thing through to make sure everything looks good, and then if I need to add anything or edit anything, I can do that. Once I finish that, I export it and upload it to YouTube, and that's it. I hope this video was somehow helpful for you guys. It wasn't an in-depth tutorial on Final Cut Pro, but you guys have been asking on how I personally edit, so that's how I do it. When I started YouTube, I never thought that editing would be a lot. I thought you could just edit a video and maybe one day and be done with it, but now that I've been doing YouTube for over 2 years, editing is very important, and it's something that you need to put your time and effort into, or else people won't appreciate it as much. So if you're thinking of starting a channel and you watch this video to know how to edit, please remember, editing does matter, but you don't need the expensive equipment and stuff. Just edit in ways that make you feel happy with your videos. Try not to copy someone else's, because obviously that person probably tried really hard to learn that. So yeah, that is all I have for how I edit. If you guys have any other questions on editing, filming, YouTube, anything like that, feel free to put them in the comments and I will try to get to them. Also, I do have a whole YouTube help related playlist on my channel, and in that playlist there are videos that are YouTube Q&As, how to start a YouTube channel, tips on YouTube, all that kind of stuff. So if you want some videos to learn how to start a channel, go check out that playlist up in the iCard. I do add videos in there every once in a while. But yeah, that is all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for all of your support recently. I really appreciate it. Since it's summer, I've had more time to focus on my videos, and I think it's really showing when you guys watch it. So thank you for all your recent support. It really does mean a lot. And since it is almost back to school season, or it kind of is, it just depends on where you live, comment down below some video ideas you have for me. I already have some planned, but I want to post what you guys want to see, so comment down below some videos for that. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell down below to be notified whenever I post. I'm not sure how long I'll keep up my posting schedule, especially when school starts up again, which I believe this video posts a week before school starts, which is really sad. But as for now, I do post every Monday and Thursday at 7 a.m. PST. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!